It always amuses me when the BBC or the other mainstream press suddenly discovers that people are playing video games, and there is an article on the television which is, gosh, people are playing games. And when I talk about video games, I don't mean just Grand Theft Auto or a console game, but right the way down to, playing Sudoku on your phone or Farmville or any one of the other myriad types of games. Those are all video games.
So I think there's a misconception there that game studies is quite new. But really, if we think about games, games have kind of, in one form or another, always existed. But philosophers have been talking about games and play for a very, very long time. And so have psychologists, and so have even behavioral scientists, so have a lot of people. So it goes beyond digital games, I think.
So we study games as one might study literature or books, which is part of the course. That gives a fairly strong basis for understanding how to then make games. And we look at making games both through the creation of ideas, the creation of games design documents, onto the physical creation of art assets, the design of raw mechanics, the psychology of player experiences, story and so forth, and the use of computers to actually, manufacture the thing, to actually produce something that someone can play.
What I've learned about games is that they're actually more than just, sitting down and playing for a bit. Like, they are like that. FPS games are a lot like that. You just sit down, relax. But they can be so much more. You can learn a lot from games. Whenever I start playing a game, I start thinking about why they did something, how they did it. I've grown up quite a lot because of that, I think. It's more of a real life experience rather than just studying. So we did get help from our lectures, obviously, but we were left to do what we wanted to do, and that ended up being really Cannon Cove, which is our game.
Sort of skills-wise though, the process of games design, the creation of game mechanics and understanding of what people enjoy and why they enjoy it, that's remained a constant. That's remained a constant from pre-computer, that's remained a constant that goes right back to probably the Babylonian game of Ur in about 3000 BC.
Games exist in this kind of weird bubble, this weird kind of medium where there's an argument, there's people arguing on both sides really, of whether or not games are popular culture. So on the one side of the argument, we have people like Adrian Shaw writing, who's arguing that just like films and television, we kind of accept that that's popular culture. Hollywood blockbusters. I mean, of course you have independent cinema, you have art films, but overall, the Hollywood blockbusters, that's popular culture, right? But when it comes to games, for some reason, we still think that they're somehow special or they're somehow underground, despite AAA titles existing, despite in the gaming industry as a whole outgrossing Hollywood. Despite all these things that point to games being popular culture, we still have this kind of, games are a bastion, they're something that is enjoyed by a select few.
Video games have been around quite a long time now as well. I mean, there's a good 30 years of game development, which has gone unstudied and unrecorded. One of the big issues that I think dominates the industry at the moment is that a lot of people leave game development fairly rapidly. It's not necessarily a career that people pursue after the age of 30 very much, which means the wheel is constantly being rediscovered. People will find solutions to things and think they're the first people to do so, whereas in fact there's 3 generations of people who've already solved those things. I think it's quite important that we continue to study games and that we develop an institutional memory. Otherwise games will always stay young, and I think that there is that perception that games are young, which is not true, but that perception comes from them not having been studied.